Okay, student shared boot camp. BGCSE Chemistry. Good afternoon, everybody. The paper we're going to look at today is paper 1, 22nd of May 2018. As it says, you've got an hour and a quarter to do the exam. You've got to answer all questions. And as I've said before, it's not multiple guess, it is multiple choice. So you need to think about what you're doing and not just guess the answers. And that's the whole point about these sessions is for me to show you how to go about approaching these, how to do these exams. Okay, right, you get your points for the number of correct answers, and you get all the details that you need about any data that you need, like the proton number, nucleon number, all those sorts of numbers you get from the periodic table. All right, so here we go. There's a periodic table. Answer all questions, 50 questions in an hour and a quarter. Right then. Okay, number 1. Which term describes the composition of matter? Well, all of those statements are correct, but the only one that's right for the question is D. So the answer to number 1 is D. Number 2, which row in the table describes the properties of a liquid? All right, now, again, it's one of the ones you've got to look at. The first thing you can look at with this, though, is that what 2 can you get rid of straight away? Because in all multiple choice questions, normally you can get rid of 2 straight away. The 2 you can get rid of here straight away are A and B, because of course a liquid isn't a fixed shape. What does a liquid do? It takes the shape of its container, wherever you're pouring it. So the answer to number 2 has to be one of either C or D. Does the volume of a liquid increase when you pour it into a container? No, it doesn't. Its volume stays the same. So the answer to number 2 is D. Number 3, sublimation question. So that's what's happening here. Solid substance straight to a gas. Process A. What is process A? It is sublimation. So straight away you can get rid of A and C, and then you need to be thinking about which one does it, which one it is. It goes straight to a gas, and so we're looking for carbon dioxide here, and so the answer to number 3 is also D. Iodine doesn't crystallize when it sublimates either. So the answer to number 3 is D. Number 4. Now this one is what we commonly refer to as something of a stinker. I'll be honest, I had to go and look it up just to make sure. What this one is looking at is asking you to find the most soluble pair in the question and bring them both together and apply them to Boyle's law. And if you're not sure what the gas laws are, what the principles of the gas laws are, so that's Boyle's law, Le Chatelet's principle, and what Dalton and the other scientists have developed, you need to have a look at the gas laws and how they work. And there is a GCSE chemistry lesson on that in the bank of lessons in the student shed. So this one is asking you which one applies to most law, which one is the most soluble. Because if you think about it, what Boyle's law says is that fixed amounts of any gas, the fixed amount of a gas is inversely proportional to its pressure. In other words, if the pressure is increased, the pressure is increased and the volume that the gas occupies decreases. So the way that this one is looking at is asking to which is the most soluble, which one could apply most of Boyle's law, and the answer to number 4 is A, because they're both the most soluble solids. They're both the most soluble salts in water, even though barium sulfate is insoluble. So yeah, stinker of a question that, but the answer is A. It's the type of thing that comes up a lot in multiple choice, so just be aware that those sorts of questions do come up. Number 5, which color is universal indicator most likely to turn when placed in the solution of calcium hydroxide? Calcium hydroxide is an alkali, so what color do we most associate with an alkali there? The answer to number 5 is A. Number 6, which method is best suited to separate a mixture of oil and vinegar? One's an acid, one's an oil. Again, the 2 you can get rid of straight away from here are chromatography and filtration. As basically, you need to think about, would it be, if it's 2, how do you separate two immiscible liquids? The best way to separate them is by decantation. If it had been more, if you had like crude oil, obviously we'd be looking at or a mixture of some more of a mixture of substances. We'd be looking at distillation. But the answer to number 6 is B. Number 7. What type of structure would contain positive ions and a sea of delocalized electrons? This question is testing your knowledge of metallic bonding. So the answer to number 7 is D. What method, number 8, which method is best suited to test the purity of a sample of water? Talking about the purity. How can you test the purity of a water? That's best, the simplest way in the laboratory, test the purity of a substance you can measure its melting and its boiling point. So the answer to number 8 is B. Okay, the next set of questions, 9 to 12, you need to look at these diagrams, and this is where you can look at the periodic table that comes with the exam booklet. Is what it's there for. Okay, so even if you think you know, be a good idea to check. I know I did when I did these questions because I always do. The questions, so the next 4 questions, you'll need to look at the periodic table. All right. So, which atomic structure represents a metalloid? All right. So, where are the metalloids? What you can look at is you can look at the proton number. So, sorry, not the proton number, the nucleon number, what used to be called the mass number. And so when you look at it, when you look at where they are, the answer to number 9, so number 9 is X. Boron is the element. Okay, so have a look. Number 10, which atomic structure represents an element that exists in nature as a diatomic gas? There's only a few. Nitrogen, oxygen are two that spring to mind, but there are others. The answer to number 10 is C. Okay, so because the answer to number 10, so the answer is Y. So the substance we're looking at is Y. Okay. Number 11. What type of bonding would take place between structures W and Y? So of course you need to go and have a look. There is W, and there is Y. What will happen between those two structures? Between them, what will you get between W and Y? Okay, so the answer to number 11 we're looking at here is C. Ionic bonding. W and Y. W and Y. Okay, and this is another question as well where we can say, if you're not sure what the different sorts of bonding are, how that works in terms of electrons, now would be a good time to have a quick look and see what they are. Okay, in which period do these atomic structures belong? So they're not talking about groups, they're asking you which period they belong to. The answer to number 12 is B, because helium is in period 1. All right. Okay. Number 13. Atoms are made of subatomic particles. They most certainly are. Which row has the correct information? Sometimes with multiple choice, you can look at it straight away, and if you know your stuff, you can get the answer straight away from this one. If you know what the charges are on the subatomic particles, you can have a look here. So electrons, neutrons, and protons, yes, they're all the subatomic particles. Some are in the nucleus, some are not. So what's the charge on an electron? It's minus, isn't it? -1. So that one's right. Now, if you're looking at multiple choice, if that one's right, number 13, all the others have to be wrong. And if you look, you can see that they are. All right, so the answer to number 13 is A. Number 14. Electronic configuration of the sulfur ion, sorry. Number 14 is D. It's got an extra 2 electrons on it, so it's got the double negative charge. So the answer to number 14 is D. All right. So this is a little question, and this always comes up. The electron configuration rules 2, 8, 8. All of those rules that come up that you would have done when you've done the atom, how the structure of the atom. It nearly always comes up as well. So it'd be a very good idea to learn the electron configuration rules. So the answer to number 14 is D. Okay, something that those of us who live in the UK know a great deal about, depending on where you live in the UK, is the hardness and softness of water. The answer to number 15 is C. Calcium carbonate, magnesium carbonate. All right, the insoluble salts in water, or the salts that precipitate out of water. So the answer to 15 is C. Number 16. What element is used in large amounts by water companies to purify water? The answer to number 16 is C. No, it isn't. Sorry, misread. The answer to number 16 is A. Okay, number 17. Where would you find the smallest atoms of elements on the periodic table? Well, you go and have a look at your periodic table. Where do you see the smallest elements? Lithium, sodium, potassium, that's where they are. The alkali metals, so you go and you can also look at helium as well, and you see the top and the left-hand side. All right, as you're looking down at the periodic table. So if you have it in front of you, like this, like a piece of paper down you're looking, you want the top left, that way. All right, so the answer to number 17 is A. Number 18, flame tests. Always comes up, either on the multiple choice or as a structured question or in paper 3, but the flame test will come up. So please do learn the flame test colors. All right. So the answer to number 18 is B, the potassium ion. Which one contains a liquid non-metal? Okay, question 19. Which group contains a liquid non-metal? The key here is non-metal. If you don't read the amount of times I've seen it, if people go, oh yeah, the non-metal, oh yeah, metal, non-metal, mercury. I'll put group 2. It's not group 2. Mercury is a liquid metal, but a metal is a liquid metal. It's not a non-metal. So the answer to number 19 is C, and the answer to the actual element is bromine. Okay, number 20. Which element has the same relative atomic mass as argon? If you look in your periodic table, you will see that the answer to number 20 is A, calcium. Number 21. Which element is a metal and used in manufacture of aircraft bodies? Which is the lightest? Well, I mean, you can get rid of B and D straight away because they are non-metals, and you can get rid of germanium straight away because it's a metalloid, semi-metal or a semi-metal, depending on how it's been explained to you. So the answer to number 21 is A, aluminium. Okay, number 22. What is the product when the acid anhydride hydrogen chloride is placed in water, dissolved in water? It's aqueous solution, hydrochloric acid. So the answer is A. 22 is A. Number 23. The basicity of acetic acid. Really, what this question is asking, and questions like this are asking you, is how many hydrogen ions can the substance in question give up? So the more hydrogen ions it can give up and turn them into protons, the more it can give protons away, the more basicity it has. So what we're looking at here is how many hydrogen atoms or hydrogen ions, how many hydrogen atoms in the substance, in the compound, can be potentially produced and made into hydrogen ions. So that you look at that by saying how many hydrogens are there in the molecule, and the answer to number 23 in this case is A. All right, so pH range of sulfuric acid. What's the lowest pH? It's a strong concentrated mineral acid. So the answer to number 24 is A. Which two reactants produce magnesium sulfate and water? All right, so this is your acid, metal, salt, and hydrogen question. The answer to number 25 is A. All right, so, and if you're not sure what we mean, I guess, by the rules, what happens with the, acid, metal carbonate, acid, metal, hydrogen, all of those, look that up. Have a look at the lesson on acids and bases, what makes acidity, what makes alkalinity, and there's a lesson on that in the lesson bank of the student's head. Okay, so the answer to number 25 is A. 26. Which reagent, when added to a chloride, produces a white precipitate and turns grey? This is your standard test for a chloride ion. The answer to number 26 is C. So it's another area that always comes up is the test for the chloride ions. The test for the anions and the test for the cations. So you need to have a look at how we test for those, that's the qualitative analysis with ammonia, the qualitative analysis with sodium hydroxide. Remember, you've done the blue precipitates, they go gel, you get all those different color changes that you would have done in a laboratory. You should have tables on those. And I know that there's tables on it on the textbook. And so I know there's a ton of videos on YouTube on this which explain this, where you can see it for yourselves as well. So, but there is also a lesson on it, how we make the tests in the lesson bank on the student shed 2. But the answer to number 26 is C. Learn the test, because it always comes up. Number 27. Which of the following has a characteristic which makes it suitable for use in a fire extinguisher? Well, you don't want, there's 2 of those you don't want anywhere near a fire. Which of the 2 combustible gases in there? The answer to the 2 combustible gases in there are B and C. Okay, so you know, you don't want those anywhere near a fire. What if you've got an electrical fire? So you don't want water vapor anywhere near an electrical fire, do you? So that leaves you with the most suitable gas for use in that one for putting out electrical fires. Number 27, the answer is A, carbon dioxide. Okay, 28, which uses electrolysis? Well, you can get rid of the second one, to extract metals from their ores, because you don't use electrolysis from that. What you do is you do use electrolysis to separate compounds like water and salt, and you do use it for electroplating. So the answer to number 28 is C. Again, there's another point where I can say, learn your chemical processes. In terms of electrolysis, the 2 that you definitely need to know about are the chlor-alkali industry, what happens when you put sodium chloride in water, and also the electrolysis of aluminium, and why electrolysis is used to put plate, galvanize and put thin layers of metals on other metals. In this case, steel ring with silver. So learn those processes. Okay. So the answer to number 28 is C, 1 and 3 only. 29. What is an example of reduction? Okay. The answer to the other one is D. The answer to number 29, sorry, is D, because all of the others involve a loss of electrons. So it's that oil rig mnemonic. Oxidation is loss, reduction is gain of electrons. All right, so the answer to number 29 is D. Number 30, oxygen gas will be produced if the hydroxide ion is discharged. Okay, so at what electrode, where does that happen? Where does number 30 happen? Okay, and the answer to number 30 is A, at the anode. Okay, a spoon to be placed for electroplating. Well, we've just looked at that in a little bit. What happens at what is electroplating? Is where you make metals discharge from the electrolyte, and you do that at the cathode. So the answer to number 31 is D. Which factor, number 32, which factor only affects the rate of reaction with gases? Only. Keyword here is only affects the rate of reaction with gases. And the answer to number 32 is B. Okay, number 33. Which factor affects the rate of reaction by reducing the activation energy? Well, the only one that does that, reduces the activation energy, of course, is a catalyst. So the answer to number 33 is A. As we're hearing, these things have come up, these points have come, might be an idea for you actually to have a look, if you're not sure how these different, because they all do affect the rates of reactions, all of these things, but you need to have a look at how they affect the reactions. So have a look and see what catalyst, pressure, surface area, temperature does in terms of rates of reaction. That will relate to collision theory and the energy and energy in chemistry, both of which are in the bank of lessons on the Student Shed lesson bank. Okay, number 34. Which one of these? Number 34, which metal reacts most vigorously with water? This is, you would have done this, you must remember it. When you put the metals in the water and you get the hydroxide ion and you get the water goes more and more alkali. Which one, which group of metals do that? Is group 1, the alkali metals. and number 34 of the list there, the most reactive metal in there that does that is reacts like that is B. So the answer to number 34 is B. Which element is the most reactive? Well, you can get rid of C straight away, and then it's really got to be looking at what's the relationship between the halogens and oxygen. The halogens are more reactive than oxygen, so you can get rid of oxygen as well. And then from there, you've got to be looking at what is the most reactive. I'll start that again. Which is the most reactive halogen? And the answer to number 35 is B, fluorine. Okay. Number 36, found in exhaust fumes. This one, it depends how you've been taught it. If you've been taught that you get sulfur dioxide in fuel, then the answer is D, and that's what I put. But just be aware that sometimes they take the sulfur, gets taken out of fuel, so sometimes sulfur dioxide is not produced in fuels. But for number 36, I wrote D. All right, so the answer to 36 is D. Number 37, which raw materials are used in the manufacture of iron? The answer is well. Okay, so what are we looking at here? So iron. So you need to be, again, looking at your processes. There's two you can get rid of there straight away. Which is the ore for iron? It's not bauxite, so you can get rid of A and B straight away. That leaves you with a choice between C and D. Don't really use lime. Lime could be seen as a fruit. It's not precise enough. So the answer to number 37 is D, hematite and limestone in the blast furnace. Okay, number 38, allotropes of carbon. Which one produces the electricity? The answer to number 38 is C. None of the other allotropes of carbon or anything that's got carbon in it will conduct electricity. And if you don't know why that is, you need to have a look at your notes on allotropes, why it is that carbon in the form of graphite will conduct electricity, but carbon in the form of diamond will not, and certainly won't with coal and soot. Question number 39. Which one of these is not an alloy? Or another way you might see a question like this phrased is, which one of these is a chemical element? Only one of those is not an alloy, and therefore only one of those is a chemical element. So the answer to number 39 is C, because all of the others are alloys. All right, number 40. Which substance is aluminium commercially extracted from? Well, we've kind of touched on this one already, haven't we? We've already said, if you go back, let's just say, for the sake of argument, that you were struggling, maybe you weren't quite sure what to do with number 37, and you took a guess because you weren't sure, and you went, yeah, I think I've seen bauxite and limestone together, so I think I'm going to go for B. And let's just say, for the sake of argument, that on number 37, you write B. You've got a couple of questions down the line, a couple of questions more in the paper, and you see, which substance is aluminium commercially extracted from? Okay, so you've got to be looking at that and thinking, hang on a minute, iron, aluminium. Maybe it'll make a little bell ring in your head. Then you go, hang on a minute, maybe I need to go back a couple of questions. The answer to number 40 is A. All right, that, what I've just said there, taps into this important part of this, is checking your answers. Try and allow yourself, when you get to the end of the paper, if you find you've got 5 or 10 minutes left and you think you've answered all the questions, you will be well advised to go back over the question again. All right? It's easy to think that you put the right answer when you haven't. And if you, sometimes what happens is there's nothing more when I've fed back tests, there's nothing more. If you're a student, there's nothing more annoying than putting down the wrong answer when you know the answer, and the only reason you got the answer wrong is because you put the wrong thing down because you didn't read the question properly or you rushed it or something like that. So take your time and check. So the answer to number 40 is A. Okay, number 41. What is the mass even, of 1 mole of lithium hydroxide? Well, basically all you've got to do is with that one there is work out the MR of the compound, or the relative atomic mass of the compound, put it all together, and you can do that from the periodic table. When you add up all the nucleon numbers for each of the elements that are in there, you get 24. So the answer to number 41 is 24. A. Okay, what's the volume occupied? Question 42. What is the volume occupied by 1 mole of carbon dioxide gas at room temperature? Well, it's the standard. It's the standard pressure, standard answer that's in the moles magic triangle for gases. So the answer to number 42 is D. 24 dm cubed, decimeters cubed. Okay. Number 43, a bonding question. What happens to an atom when a covalent bond is formed? Okay, so where does the bonding happen in chemical bonding? It's got nothing to do with protons, and it's got nothing to do with inner shell electrons. So you get rid of B and C straight away. And some bonding elements do lose electrons, but this question is asking you about covalent bonding and where that happens and what happens. So the answer to number 43 is D. They share their valence electrons. Okay, number 44. How many moles are there in 0.85 grams of ammonia? All you need to do here is write down the use the moles magic triangle, the one where you have mass, moles, and molar mass, and you put and you divide 0.85 by 17, which is the gram of ammonia, and you get 0.05 moles. So the answer to number 44 is C. And in the student said lesson bank, there is a lesson on how to do this with the magic triangles, how to work out the moles. If you're if you're not sure on the mole, and a lot of students aren't, a lot of students get quite, really don't like it. We understand that. But we also realize as well that it's part of chemistry, it's how it works, it does work, and that's something else that students find really frustrating, is thing that this area of it that they struggle with, that students struggle with, but it does work, you need to persevere with it, there is magic triangles tips in the student said lesson bank on the mole. All right, so the answer to number 44 is C. Which one of these is an exothermic process? Number 45. Which one of those gives energy out to the environment? Is what that question is asked, to the external environment. All of them, B, C, and D, are all processes that take energy in. So they're all endothermic. So the answer to number 45 is A. And if you're not sure why that is, you need to look at what happens in terms of the kinetic theory of matter, the particle model, and apply it to what happens to all three of the other answers. Okay, and that should help you explain why the answer to number 45 is A. Number 46. This one is really asking you to look at your, I guess, understanding of what reducing agents are and what oxidizing agents are. And so the answer to, if you look at it, there's two you can get rid of there straight away. The iron isn't oxidized, so you can get rid of A and D straight away, excuse me, leaving us with a choice of B or C. So the answer to number 46 is C. Okay, and you need to look at oxidizing agents and reducing agents. Okay, number 47 shows the reaction. It's an alkane reaction. What type of reaction do the alkane, apart from combustion, what type of reactions do the alkanes undergo? And they undergo substitution reactions where the hydrogens can be substituted for halogens in the presence of UV light. So the answer to number 47 is B. Number 48. Which one of those represents an alkane? Alkanes, what's the general formula of the alkanes? Is CnH2n plus 2. The only one that fulfills that criteria is C. So the answer to number 48 is C. Which one of these has a high boiling point? So which one? They're all alkanes. You can tell by the suffix on the end here, ane. They are all alkanes. Which is the biggest alkane there, or the alkane with the most atoms in it? Therefore, the most bonds. The bonds are all of the alkanes are saturated compounds. So the more bonds that there are, the more atoms there are in the compound, the more bonds that there are, therefore there needs to be more energy put into it. So which one of those is the biggest molecule, if you like? So the answer to number 49 is C, octane. Okay, number 50, which is non-biodegradable? I'll start that again. Which is non-biodegradable? Well, I make compost home for the garden. We would have so we know all three, the A, B, and C are all degradable, biodegradable. But letter D is not, because plastic at the moment it isn't biodegradable, as far as I know. Although in landfills, they're beginning to see now that there are enzymes and various microorganisms which have evolved, which are breaking down plastics. But the worry with it is that they're producing lots and lots and lots of methane, lots and lots of CO2, and lots and lots and lots of other nasty chemicals as well when they degrade the plastic. So, but the answer to number 50 is D, used plastic water bottles. Okay, and that is the end of paper 1, 2018.